Hi, I'm Bob Jablonski with Jablonski Tax Relief. I'm an enrolled agent and certified tax resolution specialist, and I help taxpayers nationwide deal with IRS collections, payment plans, and hardship options like currently not collectible status, which we're going to cover today. If you owe the IRS and simply cannot afford to pay anything right now, there's a little known option called currently not collectible or CNC status. CNC does not erase your tax debt. It's not a settlement, but it can stop IRS collections, remove the threat of a levy, and give you breathing room when you're financially overwhelmed. In this video, I'm going to explain currently not collectible status, what it is, who qualifies, and what it really means for your IRS debt. So what is CNC? There's actually a few different forms of currently not collectible status. One example might be the IRS can't locate a taxpayer and they're considered currently not collectible. But today we're going to talk about CNC due to financial hardship. In that case, currently not collectible status means the IRS agrees that based on your financial situation, you cannot afford to make payments right now. What happens when the IRS places you in CNC? Well, some of the things happen include monthly payments are not required. Active collection actions usually stop, meaning no new levies. Active wage garnishments and bank levies are typically released if they exist. However, like I said, the debt still exists. Interest and penalties are continuing to accrue. So the debt's out there, at least for now, and continuing to accrue and increase. Who's going to typically qualify for CNC? Well, we're going to be seeing people, taxpayers such as those who have income that barely cover their basic living expenses. Maybe they're dealing with job loss. There's an illness, or they have reduced income. For example, they made some money in the past, they owe taxes, but now they're retired or living on a fixed income. Sometimes we see self-employed people who, if you are self-employed and you know what it's like to run a business, your income can fluctuate a great deal up and down based on seasons and sometimes based on the stage of your career. So maybe they're at a point and they're self-employed where they're seeing reduced cash flow. The IRS is going to look closely at your real ability to pay. They're not focused so much on the amount you owe, but your ability to pay. So how does the IRS evaluate and decide whether a taxpayer qualifies for CNC status? Well, they're gonna require financial disclosure from the taxpayer. Typically, that means you're going to complete a Form 433, 433F or 433A if you're an individual. The F being if you are dealing with the 800 number, ACS, automated collections. The 433A is typically going to be required by a revenue officer. If it's a business that you're requesting it for, they're going to require a Form 433B. And they're going to compare your income, your inflows of cash, less your outflows of cash, your allowable living expenses. That's very important, understanding what allowable living expenses are on the Form 433. You're going to complete it with your actual expenses, but they're actually going to evaluate it based on allowable living expenses, which are a combination of, in some cases, actual expenses. In a lot of other cases, it's going to be limited to allowable, the IRS standards. So one of the things they do is they have to consider your assets and your equity in assets, but it's not necessarily a disqualifier from a taxpayer from CNC if you have assets. So what they're really looking for, if the numbers show you have no ability to make payments. So what CNC does and doesn't do. Here's what CNC does do. It stops IRS active collections. They won't levy you. It will prevent new payment demands from the IRS, and it's going to buy you some time during financial hardship. Here's what CNC is not going to do for you. It's not a settlement. It's not going to eliminate your tax debt. It's not going to stop interest and penalties from accruing. It's not going to prevent a federal tax lien from being filed, and it doesn't last forever. CNC is temporary, and it's subject to IRS review. So while you're in CNC, the IRS may periodically review your income, resume collections if your finances improve. At the same time, there's the 10-year statute of IRS limitations that the IRS has to collect the tax debt. Well, it's going to continue to run while you were in CNC status, which means that CNC can sometimes be a strategic option when you are close to expiration, where it may run out while you are in CNC status. So what are some common mistakes to avoid? These would include assuming that CNC wipes out your tax debt. It doesn't. It's not an offer in compromise, not a settlement. It's not going to wipe out your tax debt. Not responding to IRS follow-up letters on initial request or periodical review request of financial status. You're at risk of the IRS just putting you back into collections if you fail to respond. Or trying to qualify without understanding IRS expense rules. Remember, in some cases, you may get your actual expense. In some cases, they may be limited by the IRS standards. You need to know the IRS standards. So CNC can be very powerful, but only if it's handled correctly. Let's summarize what we talked about today. Currently not collectible status is based on your ability to pay, and it's an IRS hardship status. As I mentioned, there's different types of currently not collectible. We're talking about hardship status today. It pauses collection when you truly can't pay. It's temporary and can be reviewed on a periodic basis. And especially when you have large balances, strategy is going to matter. It could really help you resolve your tax debt. If you owe the IRS and can't afford payments, CNC may be an option, but it has to be done carefully and you have to know what you're doing. If you want help reviewing your situation, you can schedule a confidential consultation by calling 972-821-1991 or using the link in the description or in the comments section below and get directly on my calendar. Like this video, subscribe for IRS guidance, and comment with the IRS notice you received and want information about.